This is India's #1 news network, and you're watching News 9. English news as it should be.
Hello and welcome to News 9, and you are watching On Point. I am Karthikeya Sharma and we have 3 On Points lined up for you. In On Point 1, we discuss how a war in West Asia is now hitting Indian kitchens and industries. LPG shortages spreading, LNG supplies under stress. Is this just a supply shock or the start of a bigger energy crisis? In On Point 2, we discuss how the Iran conflict is shaking the foundation of America's global security umbrella. Allies are watching closely and quietly reassessing their dependence on Washington. Can India's Atmanirbhar model lead the way? In On Point 3, the United States moves its Cold War giant back into the theater. A B-52 bomber deployed as Iran tensions escalate, a clear signal of power and deterrence. And now let's take a quick look at the headlines. US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth makes big statement, says Tuesday will be the most intense day of US strike. US President Donald Trump leaves doors open for diplomacy, says it's possible he would be willing to talk with Iran, but that it depends on the terms. Indigo CEO Peter Elbers resigns months after mass flight cancellations. MD Rahul Bhatia takes interim charge. The central government declares Madurai Airport as an international airport, decision taken by the Union Cabinet. And now let's talk about how big is the LPG issue in India. A war thousands of kilometers away is now hitting kitchens, factories and industries in India. The escalating conflict in West Asia has disrupted critical global energy routes, and the ripple effect is being felt across the country. LPG shortages are being reported in multiple cities, restaurants are warming of forced shutdowns, industries are slowing operations, and sectors are already facing supply stress. At the same time, India is also dealing with disruptions in LNG supplies, with the government activating contingency measures to prioritize essential sectors like fertilizer production and food security. As global fuel supply chains face pressure, authorities are closely monitoring stocks and working to stabilize the situation. Let's first tell you about the LPG crisis. The centre is urging citizens not to panic, even as emergency measures are being rolled out to stabilize supplies. In fact, Prime Minister Narendra Modi held high-level discussions today with Petroleum Minister Hardeep Singh Puri and External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar to address the shortage of LPG triggered by the escalating conflict. Oil refineries have been instructed to boost LPG production and prioritize domestic consumption. A 25-day booking rule has also been introduced to prevent hoarding and black marketing, while imported LPG is being diverted to essential non-domestic sectors such as hospitals and educational institutions. At the same time, state governments are holding emergency meetings and monitoring fuel reserves as the crisis spreads across several regions. The centre says domestic LPG supply is being prioritized and insists there is no reason for panic. But on the ground, the impact is already visible. From Bengaluru to Jaipur, Pune to Morbi, supply disruptions are affecting businesses and daily life. Restaurants are warning that they may shut kitchens, industry dependent on gas are halting production, and households in some cities are facing delays in cylinder deliveries. Even crematorium services in one major city are now being affected due to the shortage of gas. In Bengaluru, restaurants says commercial LPG supplies have dried up and many kitchens could shut down within hours. PG accommodations housing more than 10 lakh residents are warning food supplies may last barely a week if the crisis continues. In Pune, municipal corporation has been forced to shut down 18 gas-powered crematoriums due to lack of fuel. In Morbi, in Gujarat, one of the world's largest ceramic manufacturing hubs, more than 100 factories have halted operations and thousands of workers have already lost their jobs as gas supply dwindles. In Jaipur, consumers are reporting week-long delays in cylinder deliveries, with distributors saying bottling plants have only few days of stock left. And in Tamil Nadu, the state governments have asked oil companies to urgently provide details of LPG stocks, while Chennai Hotel Association have written to the Prime Minister warning that the restaurants could soon face severe disruption.
एसेंशियल कमोडिटी 1955 एक एक्ट आया था, उसमें था कि भाई अगर विशेष जो महत्वपूर्ण खाद्य पदार्थ हैं या फिर पेट्रोकेमिकल है, इनकी कमी के कारण अगर सरकार उनकी डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन के लिए अलग अलग टाइप के नियम बनाती है साधन की उपलब्धता के हिसाब से, तो उसी हिसाब से सरकार ने ये नियम लागू किया है कि होटल, रेस्टोरेंट और ढाबों के अंदर में गैस की सप्लाई अवरुद्ध की गई है। जो क्राइसिस अभी आई है, क्योंकि ये क्राइसिस को इंडिया की नहीं है, ये पूरे विश्व के अंदर में पेट्रोल और गैस की सप्लाई अभी अवरुद्ध हुई है, इसके कारण भाव भी बढ़े हैं और निश्चित रूप से कमी भी आई है।
Next 3-4 days we don't know what is going to happen. In fact, today we have received a lot of calls saying that we are not getting gas, supplies are not coming in regularly. So this will trigger the market. And what happens now, people will start hoarding. Instead of stocking 2 cylinders, they'll stock 4 cylinders. And people who are supplying also, they will also start holding because their favorite customer they want to give. So all these things are going to start.
बेंगलोर में कुछ होटल बंद हुए हैं, तो हम लोगों ने उस न्यूज़ को देख करके इंक्वायरी शुरू करी अपने सप्लायर से, जो हमारे गैस के सप्लायर हैं। तो ये पता चला कि हाँ, किल्लत तो है, पीछे से सप्लाई नहीं आ रही है। तो अभी हमारे सप्लायर की तरफ से ये कहा गया है कि 1-2 दिन तक तो हम सप्लाई कर सकते हैं, उसके बाद अगर पीछे से सप्लाई नहीं आया तो मुश्किल होगी। उसका फिर मेक शिफ्ट अरेंजमेंट हम लोगों ने करना शुरू किया है। एक तो इंडक्शन हम लोग परचेज कर रहे हैं, इंडक्शन है भी हमारे पास, लेकिन इंडक्शन पर कॉमर्शियली बहुत करना मुश्किल काम है होटल को चलाना।
युद्ध से थोड़ा सा फर्क पड़ गया है, जिसमें अभी क्या बैकलॉग चल रहा है, कस्टमर पर जैसे कुछ रूल लगाए, अभी 25 डेज के बुकिंग नहीं हो पा रही है। पहले कस्टमर ये था कि 1 महीने में 2 सिलेंडर ले लेता, आज बुक करा लिया तो कल मिल जाता था। अब 25 लोग लगने से कस्टमर इसलिए थोड़ा सा परेशानी हो रही है सर, और 7 डेज के बाद होम डिलीवरी हो पा रही है। कॉमर्शियल सिलेंडर पर अभी रोक लगा दी गई है, जैसे अभी क्या घरेलू को देखते हुए कि पूर्ति नहीं हो पाए तो क्या इसलिए उसको रोक दिया, शादी विवाह और रेस्टोरेंट सब में भी क्लोज है सर।
1 हफ्ते से यहाँ पे कमर्शियल सिलेंडर्स का सप्लाई बंद हो चुका है, इसलिए अभी कल से पूना और मुंबई में बहुत सारे होटल बंद हुए हैं। अभी हम लोग भी सेम प्रॉब्लम फेस कर रहे हैं यहाँ पे। अभी हमारा हर रोज का रिक्वायरमेंट मिनिमम 6 सिलेंडर्स का है, अभी 1 या 2 हमको सप्लाई दिया हुआ है। बाकी सिलेंडर के वजह से अभी हमारा और एक या 2 दिन होटल चल सकते हैं, और 2 दिन के अंदर अगर सप्लाई नहीं हुआ है तो हमको होटल बंद करने की नौबत आ जाएगा।
अभी एलपीजी का बहुत सारा शॉर्टेज आ रहा है, यानी कि अभी जो इस्राइल में जो युद्ध हो रहे हैं, इसके कारण हमारे यहाँ पर धंधे पे बहुत बड़ा असर हो रहा है। तो उसकी वजह से बहुत सारी दिक्कतें आ रही है। जो हमारे से वेंडर्स है, जिनको हम लोग डेली गैस लेते थे, उनको अभी कभी भी कॉल करो, वो हमें कभी भी हमें कौन सा ही बोलते हो कि आपके पास एलपीजी गैस अवेलेबल नहीं है। तो हम भी उनको बोलते जरा कुछ तो रिक्वेस्ट करते, 2-4 वेंडर्स को हम लोग रिक्वेस्ट करते, तो भी वो गैस देने के लिए हमें मना ही कर रहे हैं। ऐसा चलेगा तो हम भी कैसा धंधा चलाएंगे।
The government says it is actively monitoring the situation and has put several measures in place to manage the LPG supply chain. A 3-member committee comprising executive directors from Indian Oil, BPCL and HPCL have been formed to assess the LPG requirements of the commercial sector such as restaurants, hotels and industries, and ensure that the genuine demand is met. Oil companies are already in touch with restaurants and hotel associations to address supply concerns. At the same time, states have been asked to take strict action against hoarding or black marketing of fuels. Government sources insist that no LPG distributor warehouse in the country is running empty, and supplies are continuing as mandated, with replenishment taking place roughly every 2.5 days. Authorities also say the number of domestic LPG consumers have not changed. Household supply remains the top priority. Officials have also clarified that the recent price hike in domestic LPG was a decision taken earlier and is not linked to the current geopolitical situation. The government is also warning against deliberate rumors being circulated about shortages and is urging people not to panic. And What is important here is that the government has assured not only they have the reserve, but they also have the wherewithal to sustain the disruptions within the global market. Now let's listen to some of the political bites.
There are some challenges, but like the Minister of Foreign Affairs assured the House yesterday, and the Petroleum and Natural Gas Minister has repeatedly been assuring that the energy security of the country is foremost priority for the government. I would like to assure the people of Karnataka, especially the Hoteliers Association of Karnataka, as well as other people, that the priority right now would be to address the domestic consumption of people, as well as taking care of the other CNG and LNG needs of the country. Like has been said repeatedly, the utmost priority at this moment is to protect the energy security of the country, and the government of India is doing this with.
The entire country is boiling. All hotels wanted to close them because they doesn't have gas. All prices will shoot up. So all have to look at firewood or electric stove or kerosene stove. Even there is no kerosene also for all these stoves. So it will be a very great problem in the entire country. I think in Karnataka, all hotel associations have decided to stop their restaurants. It is a big setback for the entire hotel industry and all the, including the hospitals.
LPG के सिलेंडर का रेट 55 रुपए बढ़ा दिया सरकार ने. अब आप बता रहे हैं कि बेंगलुरु में, मुंबई में, बाकी जगह के ऊपर जो कुकिंग गैस है उसकी शॉर्टेज शुरू हो गई है, और अभी तो वहां पे युद्ध शुरू ही हुआ है. अगर युद्ध लंबा चल गया तो भारत की जो ऊर्जा सुरक्षा है, भारत की जो स्ट्रेटेजिक ऑटोनॉमी है, उसके ऊपर इसका क्या असर पड़ेगा.
The disruption is not limited to LPG alone. India is also facing a significant hit to its LNG supplies, with nearly 40% of the flow affected amid the ongoing Gulf crisis. To manage the situation, the government has activated an optimization plan aimed at ensuring critical sectors are protected. Priority is being given to fertilizer production, which is crucial for food security. Fertilizer stocks have already been increased to around 17 which is 7 million tons, and some plants are undergoing scheduled maintenance during the current low demand period, so production can ramp up smoothly later. At the same time, India is diversifying its LNG sourcing, with nearly 60% of the supplies now coming from non-West Asian regions. Countries such as Australia and Canada are being explored for additional shipments. Officials say non-essential sectors may need to adjust temporarily, but the aim is to keep food production and essential supply chains stable. The disruptions triggered by the West Asia war are now raising bigger questions about energy security. Is this the first major domestic impact of the conflict on LPG and LNG supplies? Is the current shortage just a temporary disruption of the start of a wider energy crunch? And if global energy routes remain under pressure, how prepared is India to protect both households and critical industries? On this, I am joined by Shweta Kothari, our Deputy Editor Business, Gautam Shankar, Bureau Chief, Bengaluru, Dr. Vibha Dhawan, Director General, TERI, and Professor Bijan Misra, Consumer Policy Expert. Thank you all of you for joining me. Let me straight away go to Shweta Kothari. Shweta, how deep is this crisis?
Well, let me first begin by saying, Karthikeya, to answer one of the questions that you put out on your screens right now, this is, as a matter of fact, first such spillover effect that India is witnessing 10 days since the war began. For the first time now, we are looking at a shortage of commercial LPG. Now, to put it in context, the numbers that you also shared with our viewers, about 80 to 85% of India's LPG needs come straight from the Strait of Hormuz. They pass through the Strait of Hormuz. About half of LNG needs also pass through Strait of Hormuz. So what we're essentially looking at today is government proactively trying to ration the quota of existing LPG and LNG that we have in the country, which means this, that for the first time now, hotels, restaurants, and across the country are feeling the pans. Throughout the morning and till evening as of today, we have heard from hotel associations in Chennai, in Pune, in Mumbai, speaking of the kind of shortage that they have as far as LPG is concerned. Some of them also ringing alarm bells today that they only have LPG that could last for the next 24 to 48 hours. Now, it's important to point out, it's not just the shortage of commercial LPG which is a problem, because government continues to say that we have enough and more LPG to sustain us through the next 24 to 25 days. It's the fact that India has an eating out culture, especially places like Bengaluru, where about 4 to 5 million people eat out on a daily basis, including Chennai, Pune. Millions of people eat out. As a matter of fact, data suggests that about 300 million people in India eat out. Most of these places where they eat out frequently is because they don't have a domestic LPG connection, and they're usually people who are living outside of their homes. These are blue-collar workers, skilled laborers, people in PG, especially in cities like Pune, Bengaluru, Mumbai, and they are going to feel the pain and they're going to feel the heat of it to begin with. If, let's say, as hotel owners and associations are saying that many of these hotels and chains are likely to close down in the next couple of days if there's not enough supply of commercial LPG.
Absolutely. Gautam, why are so many eateries or restaurant owners complaining specifically in Bengaluru? Is there a city-specific issue there?
Absolutely, Karthika, because we have to keep in mind that when we talk about Bangalore, the South Indian dishes, especially dosas, the vadas, the medu vadas that we see, they depend heavily on LPG. Nearly 95% of the dishes here require gas, and the hoteliers have never seen a situation like this where they had to think about alternatives like this. And what are the alternatives that we're looking at? When I had just stepped out for lunch, I saw a few chefs of a four-star restaurant actually carrying plywood. So they are having to rely on temporary measures, be it electric stoves, the firewood, and kerosene stoves as well. That is the situation that we're looking at. And also the large-scale impact that we're looking in Bangalore right now is that tomorrow, popular dishes like the masala dosa and the medu vada are going to be off the menu sheet because these are heavily reliant on heat, and because the dosa tawas, they require constant heat. Even if you're not making dosas, 4 dosa tawas have to be constantly on in these major hotel chains. And now we've already seen the popular Vidyarthi Bhavan, which is a famous hotel in Bangalore, which serves around 2,000 dosas on a day, is already scaled it down to half. And restaurants are also putting up notices outside of outlets saying that they're limiting their menu to essential items like sandwiches and tandoor items.
This is an outrage. If you can't get your dosa or if your upma or medu vada, that's really an outrage. Professor Misra, the government says that we are well buffered in context of crude. It's being told that India has independently struck agreements with 40 countries for the supply of crude oil. But I think there's a difference between when it comes to LNG, LPG, and the crude. We are specifically here talking about the LPG issue.
Yeah, my point is that as a consumer policy, we always believe in transparency and ensuring that there is credible data brought in the public domain, which is very important. Like when you hold any kind of a meeting, you have any kind of a negotiation going on, you have to ensure that it gels with what is there actually being seen in the public domain or on the ground. Now, we have to appreciate that we have laws which protect the consumer from hoarding, from profiteering, and things like that. So while we have these laws, the state governments play a very important role to ensure, like if you're talking about Bangalore, for example, the Karnataka government has a very responsible role to play where they should ensure that there is no hoarding, and they also need to do audits with the restaurants, because you can't go with what the restaurant owner is saying, that I am having short supply and creating a panic, within the community and the citizens, which is not good, which is not true, because that panic actually leads to a lot of also domestic hoarding. People who can do with one cylinder start keeping a kind of a standby as a second cylinder because that there is a kind of a panic created in the market. So we have to develop credible information, and the role media plays, like what you are doing today, this conversation is very important, because that conversation brings in truth, brings in the data, brings in all the transparency which we want, but we don't find state government intervention at all at any point of time. We see statement given by central government, but we don't find any statement given by the state governments that what are they doing. Because with technology, with a click of a button, you can come to know what is the stock in which dealer, where it is going. You can trace and track. You can very comfortably come to know that where the warehousing is, how much is the warehousing, having what kind of a stock. You can make all that information transparent. And that is what will make the government more credible, and that will make the consumer more.
So basically, Professor Mishra, you are saying that there's a little bit of politics that is being added to the cauldron, you know, state versus center.
Well, I'm always saying that let's not get into political debates.
Yes.
These are very well strategic, demand and supply strategic kind of a intervention where there are officials who are working on it.
Okay.
The oil companies, those officials are there, they're monitoring it on a day-to-day basis. It is not a three-man committee which gets constituted to look into this. The three-man committee only can look into what is being provided to them. But what is there already, that needs to become and coming into public domain. When the Honorable Prime Minister is saying that the common man should not be...
No, the government has already activated ESMA. I mean to say the fact that the government has activated ESMA just goes on to show the revolve. Dr. Vibha, we expected that some sort of exposure of the West Asian war will be on the Indian market. Is this the exposure we are talking about?
Well, I'll say this is direct because see, when we talk of LPG, LNG and so on, it's already 40% of it which has been reduced. So therefore, while I agree with all the panelists, holding is one thing, but at the same time, we have to recognize that we are getting less. The other thing is these things are not stored in bulk. You might be having one LPG cylinder at home and you'll be keeping one separate. Beyond that, you can't even do the holding. You look at hotels, again the same story, because it's dangerous to store very large numbers and you require space and it's not safe either. So what the problem today is, and the fear is that the direct impact, and as it was mentioned, that there are large number of people, first of all, who are losing their jobs today, because whether we are talking of fertilizer industry, we are talking elsewhere, and therefore it is unemployment. Second is those of many of the citizens, they don't even have kitchens at home. And therefore, whether it's a laborer or it is a student, for them, if they don't get food in these itineraries, it is a big problem. I'm not talking of those of us who go.
But I think hoarding is an issue. Dr. Dhawan, you remember even during pandemic, the hoarding took place. Things actually went off the shelf. I'll come to you. Yeah. I'll come to you, Professor Mishra.
But one thing which I would like to add is, as responsible citizens, let's also look at options. Why can't some of us who also have solar cookers at home, why don't we reduce our requirement for LPG? Why don't we move towards even using coal to some extent? Why not? Because that we have plenty of.
I think a lot of people are using induction.
Yeah,
I have one at home. I can say that I have one at home.
Yeah, and then of course, because till very recently we had come up with solar cooking, but the entire thing is very expensive. But then can we move towards that? Can we move towards agriculture residue-based briquettes? Because that reduces your load on the entire energy demand. You don't waste. So those are the things that where we should look into other options as well. And biogas. So biogas, rather than converting it into CNG, let's start using it for cooking purposes.
Basically, you're saying that diversify the fuel that is required for domestic consumption. Before I go to Shweta Kothari, Professor Mishra, you wanted to come in?
No, I just wanted to say that only, that you see, it is not that you wake up only during crisis. These are issues which needs to be planned, and that is why, people like us, we try to tell the government much before in terms of what kind of policies we should do, what kind of policies we should encourage, how consumer awareness is very important in our country, which is lacking. We don't have that kind of an awareness built way ahead to encourage consumers to have options, better options, and move to, kind of from conventional to non-conventional energy. And it is happening in our country. But I think it should be much more higher than what it is happening today. The state governments, I always say, play a very important role in consumer awareness and building that kind of a security and the trust within the system of the consumers. The consumers actually don't see that trust because they find all kinds of diverse kind of information, contradicting information. And that is where we come in to say that, the information should be credible, should be honest, should be transparent.
I think the bottom line is there shouldn't be any panic on the street. Shweta, what I want to know from you is, our crude supply chains are pretty much diversified. Is that the same case for LPG and LNG?
Not really, Kartikeya. Unfortunately, that's what many people are complaining. While we focused a lot on crude in the last 10 days of the war, in fact, majority of our crude already passes through Cape of Good Hope. 60% of our crude passes through Cape of Good Hope. We've increased that number to 70% now. So while we tried diversifying away from Strait of Hormuz as far as crude is concerned, it's not the same case with LPG and LNG. And that's where, hotel associations are blaming the government that they did not think it through. But the government is assuring people at this point. I think it's important to point out that we have enough and more stock, because India has evoked ESMA essentially to, to be able to ration whatever stock of LPG and LNG we have, and that is to support domestic LPG and gas cylinders that people can buy as opposed to commercial LPG. So it's a decision government has taken deliberately, while in the short run, restaurants and hotels are going to feel the pang. In the long run, at least in the next 20 days, we are still insulated. I think it's important to point that out, because a lot of people are worried today if domestic supply of LPG will also take a beating, whether there's going to be a crunch and they should start hoarding more cylinders. I think it's important to point out that we have enough and more domestic LPG. It's the commercial LPG that is a problem today.
Okay, the commercial LPG is a problem, not the domestic LPG. That's not an issue. But as our panelists were saying, Gautam, do you think there's a bit of a politics here, Delhi and Bengaluru, because, the BJP is at the center and the Congress is in power in Karnataka. So, as you say, thoda chabi de di issue ko.
Absolutely, Kartikeya. And just before that, as one of our panelists was mentioning there, consumer awareness is important. But one point that I also want to point out here is that the awareness among the restaurant and the hotel owners as well, they have basically been caught by surprise. They have never been in a situation like this. Just before this program, I was talking to 3 prominent hotel owners as well. They are saying that why was there no policy? Because we have no idea if a crisis like this develops, how are we supposed to act? We are talking about hoarding and such, but what we are having to do right now is having to go back to charcoal grills and all such. But also, when we talk about politics here itself, yes, DK Shivakumar and the Chief Minister Siddaramaiah has also spoken about how the cutting off of gas to hotels is hitting not just these hotels, but also business owners and also students in PG and senior citizens who rely on tiffin services, etc. And what we have as a response from the BJP MPs from Karnataka, be it Tejasvi Surya from Bangalore South or Dr. Sudhakar K from Chikballapur, they are seeking urgent intervention from Hardeep Singh Puri. But besides that, there is no real talk of what is the kind of shift or what are the kind of changes that these hoteliers need to really prepare for, because they are panicking right now, and there needs to be a sort of a policy and regulation to make and give them guidelines that we do have a supply of commercial cylinders and commercial LPG, which will last you for these many days. After that, we will look into it. And also another point that is being raised by the hotels is that while domestic sector is being prioritized, why is the hotel and the hospitality sector being put in the last in the pedestal here? Why are we not being treated as an essential service as well? Because we provide food to several people, be it the labor class or even the IT sector as well. So that is one of the prominent questions that have been raised here as well, Karthik.
Okay, Dr. Dhawan, you spoke about non-conventional energy chains. I mean, so is that feasible? A lot of people are now, you have those piped LPGs in the semi-rural areas, semi-urban areas, you have the gas canisters. But do you think that this transition is possible, that, apart from LPG, other cooking fuels can be introduced, because that requires infrastructure, supply chains, and how much of that is being used? If I may ask you, madam.
Well, we are not using it much, especially in the metros. We are still dependent, especially in the villages, the rural part of the country. They have improved cook stoves. So therefore, the total demand of the fuel is reduced, but they are not using LPG and others in spite of the government subsidy on LPG being given to them, because wood is free for them. But then it is that, I should say, at least most of us who believe in renewable energy, we do have solar cookers. So solar cookers at home. So we should try to do 50%.
But isn't that cumbersome? I'm sorry, I mean, so quick cooking, solar cooking, isn't that cumbersome? I mean, so asking someone to use, solar as in, when people are so rushed for the time, I mean, so it has to ultimately help a middle class family in a metro.
Yeah, it's planning, because you plan for your dinner in the morning and you just put it in the solar cooker in the morning. And
but how many people, madam, would have the sun? People live in flats, that is also, you require a house for that, You
do have balconies. You do have balconies. That's what I say. It is the way you look at it. So, and the thing is, it should become in solar, like IOCL, they had brought out solar cooking systems.
Okay.
Simply something like LPG cook stove is there, but it's expensive.
It's so like, I've really run short of time. It's like those, debates we have with Shweta on the electric cars. Everyone loves an electric car, but, okay, go out, leave Delhi, then how many charging stations do you have? And, then you have the anxiety, will I be able to come back or not? Everyone loves a good electric car, but then how there has to be an infrastructure to it. I just thank you, all of you. I really run short of time, Professor. I've really run short of time. I thank you, because, this is all the time I had allocated for the 1.1. Thank you. And it's an important issue, because, there should not be any panic. Government has said that we are well buffered and they will not allow the prices to fluctuate. But yes, on ground, people are behaving the way they would, because there is a war that is going on in West Asia, and it is into your drawing room being right there. So when it's time for a break, after the break, when I come back in 1.2, we discuss how the Iran conflict is shaking the foundations of America's global security umbrella. Allies are watching closely and quietly reassessing their dependence on Washington. Can India's Atmanirbhar model lead the way?
इन्होंने हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस नहीं लिया और हॉस्पिटल्स के लाखों के बिल चुकाने में अपनी सारी सेविंग्स गवा दी। और इन्होंने पॉलिसी बाजार से हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस लिया, जेब से एक भी पैसा खर्च नहीं हुआ, और पॉलिसी बाजार ने कैशलेस क्लेम दिलवाने में इनको पूरा सपोर्ट किया। तो रिस्क मत लो, पॉलिसी बाजार से 1 करोड़ का हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस सिर्फ 525 रुपए महीने से शुरू।
दूरियां कोई अपनों में ना रहे, दिल में जब उमंग हो, घर है वही जहाँ सब संग हो, रिश्तों को रंग दो, दुनिया को रंग दो।
बिरला ओपस पेंट्स।
मंच है तैयार, क्योंकि वो घड़ी आ गई है जिसका पूरे साल रहता है इंतजार। मनी 9 फाइनेंशियल फ्रीडम समिट 2026। यहां होगी बात कमाई, बचत और इन्वेस्टमेंट की। और ये साल आपके बटुए के लिए कैसा रहेगा? जंग हो, टैरिफ हो या एआई का दौर, आपकी जेब पर क्या होगा असर? दिग्गज देंगे बेबाक राय, हर सवाल का मिलेगा सीधा जवाब। तो तैयार हो जाइए, 12 मार्च 2026 गुरुवार मनी 9 के YouTube और सोशल मीडिया प्लेटफॉर्म्स पर देखिए लाइव फाइनेंशियल फ्रीडम समिट सीजन 4। मिस मत कीजिएगा।
हमें स्वस्थ रखने वाली सारी चीजें ज्यादातर शुद्ध होनी चाहिए। सूर्य की किरणें और स्वच्छ पानी, वैसा ही है लायन अरेबियन डेट्स। और अब लायन लाइना डेट्स, इसमें फाइबर्स और विटामिन भी कुदरती हैं, जो देता है स्वास्थ्य भी कुदरती।
लायन लाइना प्रीमियम डेट्स।
The war in West Asia is triggering a much larger geopolitical debate, the credibility of American security guarantees. For decades, the United States positioned itself as the ultimate security umbrella for allies across the world, especially in the Gulf. But the recent escalation involving Iran, Israel and US interests has raised uncomfortable questions about how reliable those guarantees actually are. Iran's ability to strike back despite the presence of US military bases and defense systems across the region has forced several countries to rethink their dependence on the Washington for security. From Gulf monarchies to regional partners, there is growing concern about whether the traditional American security umbrella can still offer the protection it once promised. For decades, American military presence in West Asia formed the backbone of the region's security architecture. Countries relied on Washington for deterrence, defense systems, and strategic protection. But the ongoing conflict is exposing the limits of that arrangement. The question now being asked in many capitals is simple. If US security guarantees cannot prevent or deter major attacks in one of the most militarized regions in the world, how reliable are they elsewhere? Let's first understand what the United States security guarantees to the Gulf actually meant. For decades, Washington positioned itself as the primary security provider for several Gulf nations, maintaining a network of military bases, deploying missile defense systems, and ensuring rapid military response to any external threat. The arrangement was built around protecting critical energy infrastructure, safeguarding shipping routes like the Strait of Hormuz, and deterring adversaries in the region. In return, Gulf monarchies relied heavily on American military presence, defense partnerships, and advanced weapon systems to ensure their security. But cut to today. These visuals on your screen tell a tale of how Gulf countries that are dependent on US security are paying the price for the war. Across the world, countries are now reassessing their dependence on American military guarantees. In the Gulf, regional powers are quietly reviewing the security arrangements after seeing how vulnerable critical infrastructure can be during conflict. In Europe, the Ukraine war had already triggered debate about strategic autonomy in defense spending. And in Asia, several nations are investing heavily in indigenous defense capabilities rather than relying solely on external security umbrellas. The message emerging from the multiple regions is increasingly clear that national security can no longer be outsourced. For India, the developments unfolding globally reinforce a principle New Delhi has long emphasized, that national security must ultimately rely on countries' own capabilities. The idea of Atmanirbhar Bharat in defense has steadily gained momentum, with a stronger push towards indigenous production, domestic defense manufacturing, and reduced dependence on external security guarantees. Lessons drawn from conflicts ranging from Kargil to wars unfolding today have underlined the importance of strategic self-reliance. As global alliances become more uncertain and traditional security umbrellas face scrutiny, India's model of strengthening indigenous defense capabilities is increasingly being viewed as a template that many nations may now look towards. The developments in West Asia are now raising larger geopolitical questions about the future of global security alliances. Are US security guarantees losing their credibility? Has the current conflict exposed the limits of the American security umbrella that many nations have relied on for decades? Are Gulf countries now reconsidering their dependence on Washington for security? And does this movement signal the end of the era where nations could outsource their defense to a superpower? As countries begin reassessing their security strategies, is the world moving towards greater military self-reliance, and could India's Atmanirbhar approach offer an important template? On this issue, I am joined by Professor Swaran Singh from JNU and Dr. Divina Singh, Assistant Professor, MIT Institute of International Studies. Thank you both of you, but let me straight away go to Professor Swaran Singh. Is this a problem for America, the security guarantees, that the military base will protect the host nation?
Absolutely, Karthikya. Both in his first term and now for last 1 year, Trump has been gradually walking away from all kinds of international arrangements, have been rattling the confidence of his allies. And when we talk about recent strikes on Iran, not only UK, Italy, Germany have shown that kind of reluctance of not joining his campaign directly, but even within the Arab states, there is a clear discomfiture, which is very noticeable, particularly in UAE, which has been the main target of Iran's, I think, over 1,500 drones and 500 missiles that are fired in various countries that host US bases, for example, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, Jordan, Iraq, Syria, Oman, and so on. So fundamentally, we heard the UAE ambassador speaking in United Nations when the UN Security Council was meeting, saying nothing about alliance security and United States, but fundamentally calling for an immediate ceasefire, de-escalation and return to dialogue and so on. And likewise, UAE president also, when he addressed his nation, Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, also simply focused on ensuring security of his people at home saying nothing about his support or solidarity with the Americans. So fundamentally, what all of these states are clearly feeling is need for hedging, and therefore we notice that it's not now, for almost a decade they've been inching closer to Chinese, for example, where again a very close relationship in terms of investment, in terms of trade has been built over a period of time. I think China has nearly 450 billion worth of trade. They have these annual China Arab Cooperation Forum summit meetings. Likewise, Turkey has become another destination for Arab sovereign fund investments, or Turkey's defense exports, drones particularly, to various Arab states. So in that sense of hedging is driven by the fact that they think there is increasingly less confidence in American leadership. And now, while striking Iran, there was no consultation. I mean, there was no readiness, and these states were found to be unaware and exposed to Iranian strikes and escalation over a period of time. And I think that is only catapulting and accelerating that whole sense of looking for hedging, looking for alternatives. And definitely Iranian strikes, as far as Arab states are concerned, has really awakened them. And in fact, Saudi Arabia has been for a long time asking for a military alliance to be put in on paper, like US-Japan alliance. Indeed, most of the Gulf monarchies would be happy to get something like that, but within United States there is opposition.
Absolutely.
People in United States have been opposing this. Lindsey Graham, for example, a senior Republican leader, says Arab states contribute nothing to American security, so why should America be making any commitment? So I think increasing rattling and increasing lack of credibility in terms of a security provider as far as Arab states are concerned.
You see, if we look at the American strategic policy, they are the global policemen because they have footprint everywhere. Whether it's Philippines, whether it's Japan, whether it's West Asia, whether it's Greenland, you have American footprints. Chinese are not there. Even Russians are not there. Americans are everywhere. So let me go across to Dr. Devina Singh. Devina, do you think this will make, or this is making the Gulf countries think that Americans have got the base, but they have not functioned for what they were built for, that too to protect them in times of crisis?
Yes, sir. First of all, happy to share this place with Professor Swaran Singh. Thank you for having me here. And absolutely, I believe that this scenario that has developed in West Asia as of now clearly shows the limitations of US's military strength, like even though it boasts its military capacity and has had so many interventions over the years in the region and has boasted this ability to offer protection and security to the region, has fallen short, and this is becoming more and more evident as this US-Iran war progresses, especially because it was supposed to be an immediate action where they were supposed to have an immediate action in the region. It was supposed to be just entering and exiting. However, the strategy has been stretched out and with unprecedented attacks from Iran itself. So naturally, this does bring to surface the gaps in just one's own military strength and how far that can guarantee security in the region. And I come from the Indo-Pacific side of the academic, so naturally this brings to the table the considerations for security alliances with other states that show the idea of less wars and more economic security to stabilize the region per se. So we have the BRI and the Belt and Road Initiative that China wishes to implement in the region, and obviously this may be one of those things that become an alternative for these states in the Middle East, in the West Asian region to look at.
Okay, Professor Swaran Singh, I'll take the closing comment from you. The whole idea was that the American military bases, if you're part of the alliance, will give you some sense of security. But at the level of the concept, not only Trump has destroyed it, but it makes other countries think of parallel security arrangements. Now, the China has not filled the void. You told me on Monday that the China is not going to mimic the American behavior. So then who fills the void? The indigenous arrangements, but they might not be enough. Philippines might not have the wherewithal to push back China. So where is the void getting filled? Because power abhors vacuum.
Absolutely. I think what Arab states have been facing is something we call a resource curse theory. So not only oil has brought a lot of violence and foreign domination, now the fact that they host many of these bases has actually, instead of bases being their asset, has become a reason why these states have been target of Iranian strikes. And you're right in saying that these bases could not provide any protection when attacks started happening on other destinations like airports or oil fields or gas fields and so on, or the Strait of Hormuz being impacted and their exports are completely standstill as of now. So that again, the fact that they were hosting large number of American bases, big size American bases here, proved to be sort of counterproductive as far as they're concerned. So their strategy, of course, over a period of time is going to be engage other countries in such fashion. They can't be immediately engaging Iranians, but as I said, they are engaging other countries, including India in this sense, in such a fashion that they don't appear to be really extensions of United States, which, sometimes they had come to be seen in those lines in that fashion and therefore becoming target of Iranian strikes. If they gradually begin to distance themselves and engage with other nations as well, and that could perhaps be one way of ensuring that they don't become a direct target of such Iranian strikes in future.
Today will be the biggest.
But the fact that they are vulnerable is true. I mean, they are definitely vulnerable. They can't be protecting themselves, particularly when they have large number of American bases which make them target for such strikes.
I mean, say, look at Ukraine. There was a guarantee that the West would intervene. The West did not intervene properly when they they have given up the nuclear bombs. And how vulnerable is Ukraine? We all know the territories has been annexed. And today, when Pete Hegseth did the press conference, he said today will be the hardest day of Iran, the biggest day of the bombardment, and today will be the test of all the American bases in Gulf, because Iran will definitely retaliate when the Secretary of War says openly on a press conference that today is the day when we bomb them. And we all know that B-52s have been deployed. And those images are there. They are not B-1s, they are not B-2s. You deploy them when you have total monopoly of the sky. And they are not used for strategic bombing. They are used for general bombing all over an area. I mean to say, if that happens, the war gets scaled up to a very different level. Thank you both of you for joining me. This was on point 2. But don't go away on point 3. We will talk about the United States move and to move these Cold War giants back into the theater. I'm talking about B-52 bombers deployed as Iran tensions escalate. What are they being deployed for? That's on point 3. So US is stepping up its military posture as tensions with Iran escalate. As I mentioned, B-52 Stratofortress bomber of the US Air Force has landed at RAF Fairford in United Kingdom, signaling increased military readiness as the confrontation involving the US, Israel and Iran intensifies. The deployment comes after UK confirmed that American forces have begun using British bases for specific defensive operations, including potential missile threats. Now, Prime Minister Keir Starmer had earlier resisted allowing US forces to use British bases. But that's not the story. The story is B-52. B-52 is a long-range strategic bomber operated by the US Air Force since 1950s, originally designed during the Cold War as a nuclear strike aircraft. It has evolved into a versatile platform capable of carrying both nuclear and conventional weapons. The latest version, B-52H, is expected to remain in service till 2050. Powered by 8 jet engines, the bomber can fly 14,000 kilometers without refueling and operate at an altitude of 50,000 feet. It can carry close to 70,000 pounds of weapons, making it one of the most powerful long-range strike aircrafts. The aircraft can deploy precision-guided bombs, air-launched cruise missiles, naval strike weapons, and long-range standoff missiles, allowing it to strike targets from long distances without entering heavily defended airspace. Let me straight away go to Air Commodore Ashpinder Singh Bahal on this. Sir, when we talk about B-52 being part of the theatre, what is it telling us, sir?
Very nice question. In fact, the first thing that comes into mind is they have also deployed the B1s, they have also utilized the B2s. Then why B-52 and why this particular bomber is so important? First, let me just give you a slight background. The B1 is B-52 is the bomber which came in first in 1955. It flew, and B1 came in 1974, and B2 came in 1989. Now B-21s are going to come in 2030s, when B1, B2 will be retired, but B-52 will continue till 2050. Now that's going to be very surprising. Why? Because it's very versatile. One. Second, it is very cheap. It is $84 million. There are 76 of this aircraft. They want to retain it. There are just 19 B2s and there are just 45 B1s. And in this particular case, what is the maintenance cost of one B2 bomber? It is close to $163,000 for one flight hour. And also it is to be put down for 119 hours for maintenance because of the coatings. Normally, B2s are used where there is stealth required. When the air defense systems are high, you want to go in a contested airspace, and then you want to carry out a precision bomb. Or you want to utilize your bunker busters. Bunker busters are not carried by the other aircraft. They can be modified, but they are not carried presently. Both the GBU-28 and GBU-57 is only carried by B2. But B-52s can carry 31,500 kgs, whereas the other one, B2, can carry 18,144 only, and B1 can carry up to 34,000. Actually, the maximum load that can be carried is by B1. And B-52s have normally operated from Fairford, RAF Fairford, and they have also operated from Diego Garcia. They have a range of 14,000 kilometers. They can operate from North Dakota, where they are based. From there they can fly and operate, and they can take probably 13 to 15 hours one way, and going back it takes about 37 to 38 hours. And they do not need refueling one way, but they need refueling when they go back two ways. But normally when we use B-52s, you use them when the air defense systems have been reasonably degraded. And secondly, you use them from standoff distances, which means from ranges of anywhere from 370 kilometers.
So if I may ask you, sir, if B-52s are to be deployed in Iran, what are they doing there?
They are actually hitting at either the missile infrastructure, the military installations. They can even be used against the ships. Now, if you remember, there was a container ship, Shahid Bagheri, which was destroyed. And there was, as Trump claims, 51 ships are on the bottom of the sea. So some may have been destroyed by B1, B2, or some may have actually been destroyed by B-52 also, because they carry 20 JAASM, which means 158Cs, which are anti-ship missile with ranges of about 920 or 930 kilometers. So they can be used against missile sites. They can be used against command and control structures. They can be used against distributed. Kartikeya, this is very important. They can be used against geographically distributed target system in a high volume standoff attack. So when you are going to launch 20 of these JASSMs, you're going to launch them from nearly 900 to 1,000 kilometers away, keeping yourself safe. Incidentally, there are 5 crew members in this aircraft. One is an electronic warfare officer. So who looks after degrading the air defense environment and when they move in at that period of time. So now from those distances, from 20 different targets is going to launch. So it is going to give you high volume, long range weapon system, and also keep themselves safe with the help of electronic warfare.
So, sir, today when Pete Hegseth says...
last thing, they can be used against air defense missiles. They can also be used against the island territories, certain specific target systems which they want to use.
So today when Pete Hegseth said that today will be the hardest day in terms of bombing, what do we make of it?
What I can make of it is that they're getting frustrated, first of all.
Most intense day of bombing. That's
exactly. So I personally feel that they are going to bomb every particular missile launcher, every particular air defense system that is left. Remember, their Reapers are getting shot down, and the Israeli drones HARMs are getting shot down. Even today, So they're going to knock off all the air defense systems. They're going to knock off all their launchers, whichever have been found. And they can even do dynamic targeting by doing endurance runs outside at 1,000 kilometers ranges. They are also going to hit those target systems which have been left off till now. It will be virtually blanket bombing being carried out with precision, from long distances, and maybe they will hit at oil, which I don't think so, because Trump had said Israel did not take permission before they hit the oil refineries or the oil dumps.
So do these bombers have the capacity to carry the biggest conventional bombs, which you call the mother of all bombs?
What you mean probably is massive ordnance penetrators.
Yes.
No, they are basically GBU-57, which has got a weight of 13,500 kgs. Two can be carried only by B-2. No other bomber can carry bunker busters. So nuclear targets cannot be attacked by B-52. If they want to attack Natanz, Isfahan, or they want to attack Fordo, they will not use B-52. They can only use B-2 bombers.
Okay, so basically you are saying that B-2, B-1 and B-52, these are the frontline aircrafts being used in Iran?
Absolutely. The B-1 is used because of its high speed. It has a speed of 1,531 kilometers per hour. That is 1.25 times the speed of sound. It comes in at low level and fast comes in. It's a swing wing aircraft. Incidentally, I've flown swing wings. So just to explain to you, swinging means like 137 feet when it is like this, and when you swing your wings back, it reduces to 79 feet, so you fly like a dart. So you're flying at very high speeds. So those kind of it is that kind of an aircraft that comes in at high speeds, at low levels, with standoff weapons, and 24 of them, B-1. B-2 is basically stealthy at contested targets.
Okay. So I've really run short of time. Thank you. You very beautifully explained the difference between B-1, B-2 and B-52. So this is all I had on point 3, and thank you and good night. I'll see you tomorrow at the same time.
नितेश श्रीवास्तव जी सिर्फ 35 साल की उम्र में अचानक एक बीमारी से चले गए। उनकी टर्म लाइफ इंश्योरेंस के पैसे बच्चों की पढ़ाई और घर खर्च में काम आ सकते हैं। पॉलिसी बाजार ने क्लेम के वक्त फैमिली का पूरा साथ दिया। पॉलिसी बाजार पे 2 करोड़ का टर्म लाइफ इंश्योरेंस सिर्फ 700 रुपए महीने से शुरू।
हमें स्वस्थ रखने वाली सारी चीजें ज्यादातर शुद्ध होनी चाहिए। सूर्य की किरणें और स्वच्छ पानी, वैसा ही है लाइन अरेबियन डेट्स। और अब लाइन लाइना डेट्स, इसमें फाइबर्स और विटामिन भी कुदरती हैं, जो देता है स्वास्थ्य भी कुदरती।
लायन लाइना प्रीमियम डेट्स।
Someone to bring your vision into reality. When human vision meets artificial intelligence, storytelling enters new territory. 2 distinct categories: brand films, short films, evaluated by the best of the best, seen by those who shape the industry, rewarded with a 10 lakh rupee prize pool, celebrated at What India Thinks Today, Delhi.
AI Squared Awards, where artificial intelligence meets artistic imagination.
इस खेल में अब खेला होगा, हर नहले पे दहला होगा। टीम बड़ा है, स्टेज बड़ा है, पूरा भारत साथ खड़ा है। साथ खड़ा है। गेम बड़ा है। Dribble like a rap, pass, 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 setting up the trap. Kick it hard in the ball. Chuck, there for the ball. Chuck there for the ball. Chuck there for the ball. Chuck there for the ball.
It's confirmed. Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has been eliminated. But it was just not about Khamenei. It was also about the entire regime which the Americans wanted to take out.
Are the Iranians going to carry out their pledges, and are they going to continue with their attack?
Though Trump had said that the waves of attack would continue. But a new signal has come that there might be a small pause.
IRGC is likely to adopt lesser radical and more pragmatic approach to basically buy time so that the regime can survive.
There is much more than what is visible or to the naked eye.
Khamenei was killed because uranium enrichment and the Iranian desire to make a bomb.
That expertise is there. People know how to enrich it. There are infrastructure which can again be rebuilt.
Iran today is headless. There is transition, but conclusion is far away.